You might not be interested, or you might not think that you're interested in some of the prizes, but kind of look to see like how many tickets are in there. Because a couple of them will only have a couple tickets. Everybody thinks they want the same thing, so they'll load up the can. Your odds will be a lot better if you like see like just a few tickets in one and put your tickets in there. Because what you do is you put the tickets in different cans. So if you're not doing anything Saturday, come down here, check that out.
And that's 10 to 4 at the Orion Center. The address is 1349 Joslin Road, across from the Orion Bark Park and just after a elementary school, but I can't remember the name of the school. So hope to see everybody out there.
All right. Now, okay, before we get started on our topic for tonight, it's the anniversary date of another major thing that happened in wrestling. Probably not quite as big as the one we talked about last time, but pretty close. In 1988, it was the live Saturday Night's Main Event. I believe it was Saturday Night's Main Event. It might have been called something else, where Andre the Giant actually beat Hulk Hogan for the belt. So, here's one thing that I never understood. Even though that he beat him for the belt, they never really referred to him as world champion after that.
No.
Because he immediately gave the belt to the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And then you had I should say this. When he pinned Hulk Hogan, Hogan got his shoulder up. So it was just surrounded with controversy. There was the twin referees, the Hebner brothers. Yeah. But at the time, only one Hebner had been in WWF. And then the other one was still in NWA. So they brought the other one in. They did the whole thing. They were claiming that Ted DiBiase paid for somebody to get plastic surgery to look just like the referee. But anyway, that was in 1988 on this date.
Yeah, was that the time when Andre delivered the tag team belts to DiBiase instead of the world title? Or was that the second?
No, he gave him the belt.
But he called him the tag team belt.
He gave him the belt, but I think he said the world tag team belts or something. I mean, it was Andre the Giant. He was just somewhat hard to understand.
Oh yeah,
back then,
sure.
No matter what. Yeah. So anyway,
and one of the greatest finishes, maybe the greatest finish in wrestling history, with the twin referees. Who would ever thought that?
Right, exactly. I mean, you and I remember thought it was kind of stupid when it happened because we knew who the Hebner brothers were.
Right.
But a lot of people that didn't watch NWA had no clue. And,
it's basically pop culture. Fans didn't know, but the hardcore wrestling fans did.
Yeah.
Exactly. And which is the WWE audience even to this day.
Right. So speaking of that, I normally would not be talking about or wanting to have a topic of current wrestling on here, mainly because you and I we don't watch it regularly anymore. But so when I sent you this and told you what this topic was going to be, I said I know it's going to be a task to cover this, but let's do this anyway. And what we're going to talk about tonight is the Royal Rumble that just happened a couple weeks ago, the 2019 Royal Rumble. And all
right. What's going on?
Where's that coming from?
I don't know. Joe, producer, can. Oh wait, we got a guest.
Wait a minute. Who is that? Who is that?
Western free world. Yes.
Oh my God.
The founder returns. Rock Action joins us.
I don't know if it's been quite that long.
Since we've been on the airwaves together.
Still have the belt. All right, Rock Action. Rock Action is in the house with the TCI World Television Championship belt. You need to put the headphones on and
I gotta introduce
get
my
on microphone
flag
there,
to the
buddy.
fans before any of this other loser wrestling talk. What's this gonna do for me?
Nothing, but
Video?
you need to like talk into that thing right there that looks like a
Call the
microphone.
microphone.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go.
United States Air Force. Here we go. I brought it in. I want to salute the troops of our armed forces. Thank you for serving my country. We appreciate you every single day. Go Air Force, Marines, Navy, all these services. Thank you for your service. That's the way you start a program.
I'll second that. Now stand
Yes.
up.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Down a little bit.
Right.
Wow, what a treat.
All right, Rock Action. Yeah, exactly. Just like the old days, Rock Action, crashing the party. Have a seat because we got a lot of catching up to do.
Right here. This camera right here.
That's it.
20 years later, bigger than ever. Not like these two guys.
Lean, mean fighting machine.
So how do we introduce?
Did you show everybody your belt?
How do we introduce what?
yeah.
Okay, anybody that is not, put that up. Put that up towards that camera there.
This is
The old TCI World Television Championship.
I don't think
heavyweight champion.
I don't think we have that shot. Go right here. That
You
shot
see?
isn't showing up.
How's that? Where's the cameras in this place? Let's liven
There you
this-
go. You're good right
No,
there.
it's showing up, but it's
You're
just
good right there.
Let's
Yeah.
liven this place up a little bit. Retired. I can get in the ring tomorrow if I wanted to with any of you guys.
okay. Get over
Retired
here.
champion. Lake Orion, world heavyweight champion 20 years ago. I had to retire, man, after because there was no challengers.
And that was the TCI television title, world television title at the time, and then it turned into AT&T and then Comcast, and your reign lasted through all three.
It's
Congratulations.
still raining, man. There's nobody coming up.
Exactly. All right. Well, since you're here, I guess we will forego the Royal Rumble talk, and
We'll talk about that
we-
belt later.
yeah, we got quite a bit of catching up to do. It has been It's been real close to 20 years.
20 years, man.
Not quite there, but real close. I don't want to admit that it's been that long, but okay. First of all,
No, I'll tell you the first of all, okay? Because I'm.
okay, go ahead.
Come on, the audience.
Go.
This new generation has to know. If it wasn't for me, there'd be none of you. Am I lying or not?
You are somewhat.
If it wasn't for me bringing, I'm the one who. I want the audience to know that I'm the one who brought the pile driver to radio.
So, yeah, we'll get.
And I
want to ask you.
we're
about
going to
all that.
talk
Yeah.
about how that thing flourished.
Yeah, I want to talk about all
And-
that
and
we'll
declined.
go over the whole thing.
Can we
But-
interview you? I mean, is that one?
Yeah.
Or we could just turn it. We can all
Well,
turn
if
our
you
mics
want,
to you
if
and
you
just
want,
let you go.
If you want ratings, you're going to interview me because right now you got about one person looking at the show. Let's go. Let's get some heat going in here.
Okay.
I got better things to do.
All right. Okay. So anybody that is not familiar, anybody that I will say this: there's a lot of people that that watch the show that were fans of the Jobber Hour. That's partially why we're on here. But yes, I will give you credit, Rock Action, because even though we've given you a lot of crap over the years, I will say that. I will say that if you did not start the Pile Driver Radio Show, this probably would not be going on right
Hang
now.
on and pay for it because you suckers paid for nothing.
Oh, you've had to pay for that?
Yeah. Yeah.
$55 a week.
You remember that, huh?
Yeah, I sure do.
Guess who didn't contribute one penny?
Well, guess who had advertisers lined up for you and you
Wasn't
denied
that-
them because you wanted to do the trade thing with your buddies.
We had advertisers. I remember that, man.
Wasn't that?
Oh my God.
Wasn't that the whole reason, though, that you did it because you thought that it would work out at the end because of your business that you had?
Yes.
So-
Well, we're going to get into that, but let's talk the genesis of
Oh,
this.
okay. Well, first of all, I have a little stash here of gifts for people that because much like the Jobber Hour, Wrestling Tonight also has an open door policy. So, I do prepare for people just barging in on us. So I have some gifts. I have a gift for you, and this is the British Bulldogs basic bodybuilder, which looks like you might need.
Yeah, them guns are looking a little weak
Where's
there,
that?
Rock.
Do we have to?
I'm not seeing the definition that I used to see.
It's there, brother. It's there.
Okay,
For 90-year-olds.
All right. Well, let's start in the beginning when we have guests on here. I like to find out what got them into wrestling in the first place. What do you remember? Like your earliest memories of wrestling? What got you hooked? Who were your favorite wrestlers? Any matches that stick out?
Well, I'll be dating myself, but that's life. But I went to Cobo Arena in Detroit.
Nice.
Man, the Sheik, Bobo Brazil,
Nice.
the Crusher. It was
So
incredible.
Mark Lewin.
You got to see the Crusher live back then, and Dick the Bruiser and those guys, right?
I mean, Cobo Arena, my grandfather would take us every Saturday. There was 12,500 people there every single Saturday.
Man, so Sheik,
Amazing.
Bruiser, and Crusher, that must be like mid-'70s when Bruiser tried to make a run in on Detroit.
Right around 1974. I was dating myself. I was a teenager, and I was hooked, man. I saw the Sheik blade every
Pompero Firpo.
Yeah.
Okay, now I remember you mentioning this guy. I mean, I've seen a couple matches with him, but you told me one of your favorite guys back then was Big Money Hank James. Is that true, or was that your brother?
That's my brother, but still,
okay.
I love the name, man. Big Money.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I've seen a couple matches with him, but he was pretty good. And so, like, what about? I mean, I know that territory used to bring in guys from all over, like Terry Funk, Andre the Giant, Dusty Rhodes. Did you ever? Do you have any memories of being able to see those guys in that era?
I remember
at that time?
Wild Bull Curry. I remember us. They had a brass knuckle match with a Sheik, Bull Curry.
Oh, Bull Curry legend.
They taped their. They had brass knuckles. They would put white tape over it and beat the tar out of each other.
Bull Curry, Brass Knucks champ in Houston. That's where it all originated.
Yeah, there was no social media in those. That was our entertainment. That's why I turned out the way I did.
So were you still attending those shows like up until the point where it kind of died off?
Yeah, pretty much. We finally, you grow up a little bit and you go on to other things. I don't know when big time wrestling started fading. I don't even remember.
What
pretty
was
much
that,
right.
Like early 80s, late 70s, early 80s.
Well,
right?
it was more late. They started in the mid-'70s, like the big time wrestling Detroit. Just a quick little history. The Sheik ran big time wrestling in Detroit, and they started to go downhill probably 73. The crowd started turning down.
That early?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then in came Dick the Bruiser with the WWA group.
Was that Bruiser Bedlam at that time?
At the end, it was. It all ties in, but Bruiser came in and tried to make a play on Detroit to take the Detroit territory away from the Sheik. So normally what happens when you have the two competing organizations is they start to cannibalize and kill each other. So they started having joint cards. So at one time, Bruiser and his cronies were running the Olympia, I believe.
Yep.
And then the Sheik and his guys were running Cobo Arena.
Oh, okay.
So the Sheik was really kind of, his territory was on the outs. Having Bruiser come in, it wound up revitalizing him for a couple years. But after that, by 78, it was done.
Was that when Vince McMahon started taking over territory?
No, it was before that. A lot of the older territories like that started dying before McMahon. But at the time, they had the IWA, the Eddie Einhorns, and a couple others that tried to go national. But at the time, they were just dying, and a lot of people blame it on the booking, and his insistence on putting himself over and not getting any new stars ready.
Could it be any more dead than it is now? I know
around here.
The money.
No, it's deader than a doornail.
It's unbelievable.
From a televised perspective, there's a lot of wrestling around here. A lot of we'll call them indies, but for the most part, televised wrestling around here, I've never seen it good ever. Even when I was a little coming up, you mentioned the WWA.
You bring up Bruiser Bedlam. There was that was pathetic. At that point, later on, there was maybe like 20 people in the crowd, if that.
Yeah,
but,
and they'd have a couple good matches, but just not enough to.
Okay, well, I'm getting a little bored right now. We're here about this. You might never see me again.
You got a wrestling question?
We can only hope.
How did this take? how did this take place? Well, let's fill in the audience.
We got a lot of other
We
stuff.
don't have how much time we got. We're already 20 minutes into
Just
this.
yeah, don't worry about it. I'm the host.
Let us
just-
guide
you
you
just
like we did
follow.
on the pile driver.
That's fine.
You got to
The
build.
pile driver didn't get.
You got to build.
The pile driver exploded when Gene, the dancing machine over here, joined us. That's
right,
when it exploded, brother.
So you like a lot of people. I remember like when Hulkamania hit. A lot of people that were fans of the era of the Sheik, they tuned out. They didn't like that era, but you continued to watch, correct?
It was hard. I mean, it was. It was. Yeah, I continued.
You were still
to
a fan.
But you liked. I mean, I know you were a fan of the Road Warriors at least,
Oh, at least, yeah.
right?
Big fan, yep.
So you continued to watch.
Well, I remember when Tony Schiavone, there was it, Mr. Everything over here.
He can answer too.
AWA was when the Warriors got really popular with Tony Schiavone.
Shivani was not in
No.
the AWA at the time, but the Road Warriors started out. Well, they started out in Georgia
That's correct.
When
As,
to-
as a team, yes.
as a team.
What
When-
year would
when-
it have been then?
83 maybe they started. End of 83.
Yeah, but then they got real big in AWA. But
remember that.
then they jumped to NWA where Tony Schiavone was.
That's when it sparked me again. Where I mean, Tony Schiavone is one of the best hosts I've ever heard. Anyway, and that's what got it got exciting again.
Okay.
Even though you suckers don't believe I was into the bodybuilder type, these guys didn't know how to wrestle. You guys are more. You want them to you want them to wrestle.
Yeah.
This
I
was
want to
all-
suspend disbelief.
This is all bulk. The bodybuilding era. I called it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
Well, I mean,
Most people did. I mean, you're not alone.
when I started watching it, I like the Road Warriors too.
Yeah.
But it's just, if you compare the Road Warriors to like a Midnight Express, a polished team like
Oh,
that,
no
I like
comparison.
I liked that style of wrestling better. I don't begrudge anybody that likes the other style of wrestling. I could totally understand that people like, more of like the Road Warriors style. But the reason I'm asking you this is, so did you stay? So you remained a fan all the way up until the beginning of the Monday Night Wars, then,
That's when we met.
right?
So I was when Stone Cold Steve Austin came around, and DDP, and there was the Monday Night Wars. That's when we were doing our best when that was going on.
Right, exactly. I remember the very first show.
That was fantastic.
I'll get to that, but the very first show that I was on was the week after they had Mike Tyson.
Oh, really?
on
Yeah.
there.
Oh, really?
That was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I think that was the very first week I was on because we were talking about that.
How
but-
did you get on anyway? Are we going to go there yet or not?
Yeah,
yet?
we'll get to that.
We
But
jump into it?
but first of all, I want to know why. How did you get the idea to start the Pile Driver show in the first place?
I always wanted to voice my opinion out there, and you guys soon found out that I was not nearly as deep about wrestling as you guys.
Well, let me.
I needed help.
Well, no, I didn't
beginning.
realize that, but you told us after that basically you were just reading out of the torch.
Pro Wrestling Torch.
But it was the early days of the internet too. I mean, so I think you were getting some stuff off the internet.
That's when they had 900 numbers.
Yeah. And you're doing
So
a
were
good
you
job
still
at
calling
it,
the
so-
900 numbers?
Oh,
because
man.
I'll say this, I didn't know about your show. My dad actually brought me a newspaper, and I don't know if this newspaper is still around, but it was the Oxford Eccentric, and you were on the cover with your co-host at the time, Stone and Steel.
Oh, no.
You have that in your gimmick bag?
And it was WPON, but in the article it
Forgot
said
that
that
one.
you lived where I lived in the same town. So I looked you up. Eventually, I looked you up. First of all, I listened to your show a couple times, and I thought you knew what you were talking about.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I thought that you knew what you were talking about.
Sorry, I
The other
disappointed
guys-
you.
I can vouch for this because he was telling me on the side.
What were
while
you
all this
saying?
is
Like
going on.
this guy's like this guy's really knows what he's talking about.
I believe I did. I was like the host knows what he's talking about, but the other two
they
guys,
were-
they're
Yeah.
not. They might not be so up to snuff. Not that they were. Well, I'll give Stone a little bit more
Stone is
credit.
pretty decent.
Than,
He's pretty
than,
deep.
than the other one, Steel.
Still didn't know anything.
Okay, so I call you up basically out of the blue and say, hey, this is kind of what I've done. I can come on there and do this or whatever, and you were just like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you thought that I was some stalker or
I still
whatever.
do. Nothing's changed.
But for whatever reason, you say, okay, come on, and you let me come on there.
Well, we had a small discussion, I think, over the phone. I thought
We
before,
did.
a couple
I think
times.
we talked a couple times before I actually came on.
And I'm like, damn, this guy knows what he's talking about, man. I remember saying that. We got to get this guy out. We got to bump this show. And remember all the records, all the records that we set, the number of callers. Or am I
Oh,
getting
for that station?
Am I getting ahead of myself again?
No. That's.
I
no.
mean, we were on WPON 1460. Is it even around anymore?
No,
Is it gone?
yeah. Somebody
no
owns
idea.
it, but
I have no
it's
idea.
lumped into like a conglomerate, and they own like 4 stations, and they just have it shut down.
How many times did we get thrown out of that place by Marie? Remember Marie?
Well, what were before? Maybe before Mad Dog came along. How were the calls? Like, what kind of feedback were you getting on the show? And
Well, it was tough building an audience. I mean,
yeah, and you were in building phase, to be fair.
I mean, I had no clue what I was doing. Oh my god, no clue about this stuff.
But I mean, I think you guys got some calls. I mean,
Yeah, there were, and then you build, and then we got more and more and more, and then we got crazier, and then
Well,
I don't remember when
well,
Gene-
well, before we get to that, before we get to Brace Beemer, who was Buddy Rogers at the time, I
should have stuck with that.
I never met this person, but I don't know. Like by the time I showed up, she was already gone. But you brought on a female named Isis. And I believe she was on there.
You should be fired from somewhere, from your job.
So I believe she was on there when I would like listen. And I mean, I never saw her, but her voice was great for radio.
she was call in. She was one of
Okay.
our callers. I'm like, man, that's like the perfect voice for a commercial or just to butt in.
Yeah,
It was
I agree.
perfect.
Yeah, she had a good voice. But by the time I started coming on, she never. I think she would still call every once in a while, but she was gone at that point.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember when I was on there. I couldn't do it every week. I could only do it like once every like 3 months. I could be on there for like a month.
Yeah,
I could be
yeah.
on there for like 4 weeks. So I suggested to you when I was not going to be on there to bring on
This other
Grace
guy.
Beemer, Buddy Rogers.
And then
he
I
came on.
quickly found out the guy has supreme intelligence about wrestling amongst other categories in life. But I'm like, these guys are making me look really good. I mean, I'm being honest. 20 years later, you guys, I don't think I would have gone nearly as long as if you guys didn't show up.
But it was a package overall.
no
like
idea.
what
I
we
mean-
had. I mean, it was.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there was, everybody had their place, and then somebody calls you up. All right, I don't even know. I don't even remember exactly how this happened, but I believe somebody called and threatened you, or just told you that he was going to show up one day, and that ended up
Was
becoming
that Kane Snoons? Or
that ended up becoming Prozac 316.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who would lay much later? become-
wait a minute
What?
now.
Am I missing somebody
No,
in
but
between there?
You say Prozac 316. That was genius. Who thought of that? Where's that camera? Because that was when Stone Cold was 316.
Yeah, that was you, wasn't it?
And I'm like, this guy's a weirdo. He's on Prozac. I'm like, we need Prozac 316. And that caught on. Perfect. It was excellent.
Yeah, and the thing was, he didn't even mind. But
Well, how did you get Mad Dog Butch you had that when I met you, right?
yeah, that goes way back to our old wrestling and our old wrestling TV shows back on Oxford television, which is something else that I want to bring up. Because when I first came on there, you had a little feud going with the guy that ran Oxford television at the time, because he was not, because you were recording the Pile Driver shows. You were putting the camera in the studio, and then I believe we were coming to, or you were coming to Lake Orion studio to add the graphics.
Oh yeah, we did.
And then, they were showing it, I believe, on Lake Orion. And then we would take it to Oxford, and he would never show it. Because, like, his whole...
Jim Hughes, right?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say his name? Like,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was getting to
Oh,
that. But,
remember I ripped into him?
the whole thing was...
I still got that tape. I still got that
It was
tape.
more than one time. And we finally, I don't know if you remember, but we finally got him to start playing it because we had him call into the show.
He didn't have a choice, dude. I ripped him. I felt bad for him. I think he was crying when I was talking to him.
I don't think so. I think he enjoyed the attention.
Well, we did it
and
live,
I think
though.
that is what
we ripped him live.
we did. We
That
had
was
him.
Great.
Well, you did. You did.
Why
I showed the proper respect to Mr. Hughes.
Right. That's why you have no rating. That's why you don't have no ratings.
Yeah, guys, what was going on here was Rock was videotaping the radio show and sending it out to the different. He was what they call in the wrestling business. He was bicycling tape.
Basically.
He was taking the tape of the show to the different communities around and getting them aired on TV. I mean that
That's a lot of
went
work
to,
too, man.
You know, Pontiac, Waterford, Oxford,
Waterford.
Lake Orion, Clarkston. You know, so it was quite a bit of an effort.
That really helped with the phone calls. I mean, people were calling because we had the phone number in the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah, totally.
That's when it really did well. I mean,
Yeah.
it was nonstop phone calls the whole entire hour.
So when Butch came in, what were your impressions? I mean, you had to be somewhat, leery of just letting
Not at
some
honestly,
big behemoth walk through.
No.
You were good.
No, I mean I was convinced in 5 minutes that the guy's got some deep knowledge about this stuff,
Nice.
way more than I have. I mean, it was.
I mean, I appreciate that, but
I mean, you could only.
But at the time, like I said, I didn't know any better. I mean, I thought the way that you presented the show up until that point, even with Stone and Steel. I mean, like I said, I thought that I could probably come on and add a little bit more than
A lot
maybe
more.
what those guys were doing.
It was like, how much of the torch can you read? I mean, the torch was all I had, and a little bit of internet,
And half of it's wrong anyway. It's media.
It was, and then it
Dirt
was,
sheet.
it was what happened a week ago, and you'd go back to what happened in the early '60s. I mean, you guys, I don't even remember what you guys did, but you'd go way back with the older wrestling fans would understand.
Yeah.
It's stuff I never even heard of.
Okay, now my timeline might be a little bit screwed up, but I'm skipping over something, and this might have happened before, but we'll come around back to it. But at some point, you started bringing bodybuilders onto the show. One of them.
I wish I had more time to prep for this.
Now, what was your reasoning for that? But I will say this: eventually, it got you into a magazine,
Great Lakes
Fitness Guide.
Yeah.
I didn't. I had it. I didn't bring it today. Dang it! But because I'm into bodybuilding, being as old as I am, and
Obviously, you still got to work on those arms.
bodybuilding. I mean, there was a phase. The Lex Luger's out there. The Scott Steiner's out there. There was a phase, right, where there were. Hulk Hogan could have been a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hell,
that
it was more than a phase. It was a takeover. You know.
So I think I timed it like we need somebody locally that looks like that. He didn't really know much about wrestling, though, did he?
No,
mean-
no. I mean, I think we would like say anybody that wants to call about. Well, there was that Ken Cannon guy you would bring on.
Ken
who
Cannon?
was like-
Iron Man Ken Canyon.
who
He was a good guy.
no, he was.
Ken Canyon.
He was the professional model,
Yeah.
professional fitness trainer, and professional dietitian, I believe.
Yeah,
'Cause-
he had-
so he would say, that if you wanted to call and get dietary tips or whatever, but
And he got nothing but crickets the whole show. Remember, nobody called that shit.
pretty much. But before that, we had him on our show. But yeah, nobody really called and talked about bodybuilding. They
wait a minute,
they could
so-
contribute a little bit.
Let's talk about our my appearance on the Great Lakes Fitness Guide, the first article I did.
Yeah, let's do that because
And I think it was the last article. I think he went out of business after that.
You put him right out.
Well, it was me, you. Stone was on the picture.
Yeah, there was a picture of us, but you did not consult me to be a proofreader of the article.
Hey,
And
it's not my magazine, bro.
well, I think you tried to blame.
Every other word was misspelled
I think you tried to blame that on their editing process or something,
or their lack of. No.
which I don't know because everything else in there, all the other articles seem to be spelled correctly.
Well,
They didn't have an editing process. That was the problem.
but that's the growth. We were on cable. radio, and then now newspaper.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Now here's
was
something
rocking.
that still sticks in my craw to this day. Ken Cannon brought on a bodybuilding woman named Jennifer Kennedy
Yes.
at the time. And now she came on there and she was not, quote, in season at the time. So she looked like a normal woman that just had gigantic fake cans. Now she was willing to get nude in the studio for us, and you balked at it and would not let it happen because you thought that somehow
I've got standards.
that was not it. You thought that if your wife found out that she was going to kick your ass.
I've got standards.
Okay, well, you
Okay.
can stick with that story.
That show was for children. No, it wasn't.
No, it was not. No, it was
There
not.
were a bunch
And I
of-
will get to
it
the
was for
reason.
people that were in prison, but anyway.
Have you seen her? Have either of you guys seen her lately? Because she is still out there.
Kidding me.
She looks worse than China ever did. She
Bulk-
doesn't look anything like. Oh, she looks.
Bulk wise, or
She looks like a man. She looks totally like a man. She has ruined herself. I mean, but yeah, she does these videos online. If
Yeah,
anybody's,
I haven't looked. I mean,
yeah, I mean, even like, yeah, I don't even want to talk.
How much
about
time
it,
we
so-
got? How much
All right,
time we
we're,
got?
we're skipping over that.
I brought some goodies.
All right,
I brought
I'm
some
done
goodies
talking
from the
about
old
it.
days.
Okay, now this is what I skipped over. I don't think he was on the show until after the Great Lakes Fitness Guide debacle, is what it has come to be known in later years. But there was somebody that used to call into the show. We did the shows was it Tuesdays or Wednesdays?
Tuesdays.
Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah.
So while we were doing the show, the ratings information would come out. And he would call and give us the ratings. And that was, and I believe he is actually watching right now, that is Cue Ball. Now, you decided after a little while to bring him onto the show.
Had to.
Again, without consulting anybody else that was on the show. Okay, you had to? What was
Well,
what was your reasoning?
He had some angles, some intelligence. I don't know if you could put cue ball and intelligence in the same sentence, but there was some. He had a little bit of depth about wrestling, and just the way you got to imitate the way he talked. But I can't do it. But the way he spoke and the way he looked, you had to bully the guy. We needed to bully somebody. He was perfect.
Well, you know
for
what?
it.
I think he got in on the merits of his website. From what I remember, how he thought he was getting 55,000 hits
Yeah.
a week.
He was a webmaster, and
You
a
know,
social media icon.
And if you're watching,
And
Cue
I-
Ball,
I
if you
think
are
that's-
watching, you can correct us on this.
Yeah, go in the little chat room gimmick there.
Because I mean I don't remember it was something like that.
The
But
NWOW website.
Yeah, but if I'm not mistaken, I'll get off the subject slightly, but you're a little jealous of Cue Ball. You said the other day that he's bringing in a bigger audience than you are here. With,
What are you talking
with the
about?
independents.
with the independents, what are
The
you talking
independent
about?
circuit. You said they're calling. He's getting some calls. You said from the Michigan Independent.
Getting some calls where?
I don't know on
Where-
whatever. What is he doing? Something of what he was doing. You're saying he's not doing too bad. What is he doing online right now? A wrestling show?
I have no idea what you're talking
bull
about.
crap,
I swear to God, I have no idea what you're talking about. I think you dreamt this.
Okay, maybe I did.
But I mean, no, but he has. I mean, he does still cover wrestling, and he puts a lot of stuff out there on Facebook and everything. I don't think he has a show that people call in on.
Yeah,
or
maybe he
anything.
said he's doing all right.
But-
It's just doing all right in general. I mean,
But yeah, I mean, no, a lot of the guys on the independent scene do. He puts a lot of stuff out there. He goes to. He's in Florida now, so he goes he'll stream shows from Florida and stuff like that. Maybe that's what I was.
oh,
saying.
really? That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, maybe that's what I was saying. But,
So what happened? So are we still doing the flow of the pile driver? What about the decline, the rise and the decline? Of the pile
I'm not
driver?
there yet. We're still
Okay.
talking about. We're still talking about
The rise and fall of the
Still
Third
talking
Reich
about
here.
events. Now there was somebody else that was on WPON.
He's got to get to his creatine intake. He hooks it up to a pump and just like,
Is this Ron Kimura?
Yes. How did you know? this guy, and I had no idea that this guy was a pretty big sports guy in Detroit at one point. I would walk into the studio to do our show, and he would be right there in the gorilla position when you'd walk in, constantly on the phone. And that's what you said. He would just
He's a worker for sure,
getting
man.
advertisers. He would just
He
call
was a machine, man.
Yeah.
advertisers. Now, at some point, you told us that you were listening to his show, and he buried wrestling fans, he buried pro wrestling, and all this other stuff. So that sparked up a little feud between the shows.
He was
Well,
so,
wait a minute. Didn't he only dog it because
He said it was
somebody
fake or something?
called in and was like kind of messing with him?
I don't-
Or was it
This
just kind of
before
out of
that.
the blue?
Well, I believe I asked you years later, and you could not verify if that actually happened. So were you just trying to tweak us up?
Probably.
Yeah, that's the gist that I
But
got
this,
of it.
but it's
It
Ron,
worked.
It's well, it was Ron Cameron. I want to make sure the audience hears
Right,
this, 'cause
Ron
he's a
Cameron,
local guy.
who is actually still on the air today.
Yeah, 101.5 The Patriot.
So
Yeah.
we call him
On the
Ron
weekends.
K. Moron because he was a moron. And
Well, Ron K. Moran used to call into our show, and
Yeah.
and ask us wrestling questions and talk about food and his advertisers and such.
oh God, it was pathetic.
but
every advertisement was
but-
a restaurant.
But I could be wrong, but I think that was one of the original things that kind of got us some heat with The Office there.
Well, the kids-
because he was complaining because I made a prank phone call at one point,
remember that.
but it wasn't even meant to be a prank, but he just like flipped out because I told the screener that I was going to ask him who in his opinion was a better basketball player in their prime, Michael Jordan or Larry Bird, I think it was, and I was sitting next to my buddy, and because what I was really going to ask was who was better in their prime, Ric Flair or Bob Backlund. When I went to say Bob Backlund, my buddy screamed out Bob Backlund,
Great.
and Ron Cameron just had
was
a
shocked.
meltdown.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's going to put you a brain. Was that?
yeah, he was going to put a
Bring
brain.
it, bring it. dude.
Put a brain on me. He blamed the parents, all this other stuff. But
Wrestling is stupid and the whole thing.
but I believe that he went and complained to
Marie.
Marie, who ran the studio at
Well,
the time.
she was just looking to get rid of us because the kids. Now that I'm older, the kids were saying the F word. We couldn't stop them. They had no delay. How many times?
Well,
did I
that
hear the
barely
F word?
happened, though. That didn't. They
But
wanted to
she-
get rid of us because we had so many callers and it was pro wrestling and they were doing all the other shows they could do and couldn't come close.
And we were so.
And we had a
so
little
boring.
arrogance, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you have to admit that all those other people that went into radio and that were on there as producers and were doing their own shows, they
Nothing.
they were jealous of our show
Yeah.
because of
Cra-
all the calls that we ended up generating. On
Crazy Al had
And-
Crazy Al.
Yeah.
Remember him?
Yeah.
Nothing. Zero.
Right.
The vacation guy.
Playing the oldies, and then here we come, a bunch of smart Alex professional wrestling. Tore the place up. It was great.
Right. But now you said that the callers were swearing. I think you did your fair share of that yourself. I mean, it wasn't anything real bad, but you a lot of times you were saying a lot of stuff.
The colorful language.
Yeah, but I don't think they were like really paying a whole lot of attention to us at the time because I mean I didn't remember hearing a whole lot about it. And then eventually Prozac 316 and this whole thing
Prozac.
and this whole thing was bizarre because I was on my day off. I happened to get in my car and I was going to the bank and I just happened to turn it on 1460. Ron Cameron was doing his show and I hear Prozac 316 asking him sports questions. They're talking back and forth. Seems totally legit, and I'm like, oh, okay, he just really wants to talk to Ron Cameron about sports. And then at the very end, he says something like, oh yeah, one more thing, Ron, you're a effing fat ass. And it was like dead silent for like a couple minutes. I could hear him going back and forth with his screener, and I was not there at the time. This is when I was off, but this is what started leading to the downfall. Because apparently when you guys all went in, that week. She confronted you guys
Oh.
and said that you guys could no longer, or us, could no longer take phone calls on the radio show.
Yeah.
That one day she wouldn't let us in the building. We were out in the parking lot that one day. I'll never forget that.
That had to be that day.
We're
right?
not letting you in. It's all about ratings, man.
That was one thing that show, for being on 1460, used to be a big AM station in its
It was
heyday.
pretty decent, yeah.
But it was a decent size. The coverage, went up. Even it was Franklin Road, kind of
Square
north.
Lake by Franklin, Square Lake area out there. Down Franklin.
Yeah,
down
it was
Franklin Road.
Bloomfield Township.
But
And-
how cool was it? A bunch of guys. We're still friends 20 years later.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
it
that's
doesn't
awesome.
happen often.
No, I know. So that happens, but basically taking our phone calls away. That pretty
was-
much.
That was the beginning of the end.
Yeah, we didn't have a show otherwise.
Because we were hammering these. Anybody who called in was fair game, man. Nobody was treated with respect, guaranteed.
Well, it was.
there was-
I don't know. I
Well,
think
geez, this guy's always politically. This guy.
I
has
know,
got-
but
No,
then-
but he's right. It's not like we just hammered every single
Yeah.
person that called.
But he was Mr. Manners, Mr. Professional. I was.
sometimes
I don't know what you would call me, and I mean, it just worked. It just worked.
it did. I mean, we had a different cast of characters. I mean, we're making it sound like people called on and we ragged on. I mean, they had calls. They came in. They had
some good questions,
questions,
too.
and
You have a wrestling question?
Yeah. No, I mean, there was a lot of people that called in with intelligent questions, and there was a lot of people that called in with not so intelligent questions.
there's a lot of work that went into that show. Really.
Yeah, but it's not like we just hammered every single caller that called in. I mean, we were ready to go.
At any given moment.
Unless Cue Ball called in, we hammered him. But most of the
okay,
callers
well-
were kind of massive. They liked it if we nailed them.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think they like to give it back to us just as much as we like to give it to them.
I mean, the most fun was hammering cue ball every time he showed up. Didn't you put a bag over his head or something that one time?
We're going way, way far later.
Forward?
on.
Oh,
yeah,
we are?
Yeah, way forward. But speaking of cue ball, pretty much because of them kind of cutting our legs off by taking the phone calls away, is that what kind of led you to get out of it? And you kind of passed it on.
It just wasn't fun anymore.
But you passed it on to cue ball.
Yeah.
You let cue ball take it over. So that was the reasoning because of the phone calls, or it just wasn't fun,
It just wasn't
all
fun.
around?
I mean, I don't know I don't know. We didn't just shut it down one day. I mean, it was a gradual. I think cue ball came more often than he used to, and I'm like, it's not fun. I don't know. Wrestling was at the Monday Night Wars. Weren't they at their peak?
Well, it's just we
When we were
couldn't take
there?
calls. I remember. I mean, that was
The calls had to be the biggest thing.
that was the killer.
Well, yeah. I mean, that made the show, man.
Yeah, but luckily for us, like I mentioned earlier, we were coming to the Lake Orion studio, not the one that we're in today, but the old one, and Joe Johnson would help us edit the shows, put graphics on
God,
it,
it was all day
or whatever.
long. Yeah.
So it just so happened that during this era where they took our phone calls away from the radio show, the studio had just gotten a live call-in line for their shows. So Joe Johnson actually encouraged us to start doing a show on the air, which became the Jobber Hour. Now you started out. I wasn't originally on it.
That
actually.
started out as the pile driver, though, right?
I think it did. I think
Yeah.
it started
Yeah,
off
that was-
yeah.
as the Pile Driver television show. So I think you were on there. Prozac was on there, and Cue Ball was on there. I think in the beginning, and then Cue Ball kind of took over the radio part of it. But then he changed it
Terrible.
to start doing covering pretty much just all local stuff. But
I don't know if did he even have to? He used to bring in some of his cronies once in a while on his show.
Oh, yeah.
And then
Yeah.
he can't enunciate a word, so you couldn't understand anything that he said. That didn't help.
but
A
okay,
talk show host that can't say a clear word.
okay. But you start off with the Jobber Hour, and
I think I got pretty much shuffled out of there by you, if I'm not mistaken. I wasn't.
No.
I don't think I was welcomed anymore because of the ego. I think the ego started getting in the way.
it had nothing to do with me.
I don't know about that.
It had nothing to do
I
with me.
stopped getting phone call. I stopped getting invites. I think, or something. I wasn't. I didn't feel welcomed anymore.
You know what? I don't see it that.
Before
of course you don't.
You were busy. No. You were busy. You weren't really coming around.
I'll tell you what. Before I even came on there, you were not showing up on there anymore. When I first started going on there, it was Cue Ball and Prozac, who had changed his name to Frank Williams Jr.
Oh
at the time.
yeah. I remember.
So then it was like us three for a while, and you would just kind of come whenever.
Yeah, it wasn't. I wanted to be I wanted to be in charge, and it faded away.
But you were in the beginning.
Yeah, because I had the wallet.
I'm talking about the Jobber Hour. The Jobber Hour had nothing to do with your wallet.
But the Jobber Hour was free of charge.
That's what I'm saying.
So
you,
I
but
had
you
less
could
say.
have kept. I don't think so. I don't think so.
I think
don't
you were
think-
scared of Prozac 316 Frank Williams Jr. and that's
Mr.
what kept you
6'7".
away.
Yeah, I was.
There was something. There was something going on. Maybe you.
He was the special referee for our match, where we haven't talked about yet.
Well, that's what I'm.
We're
getting-
running out of time. I guarantee it. This is too much fun.
That's what I'm trying to build towards. Anyway, so
But you were busy regardless. I mean,
I'm
that
a
was
busy
the-
guy.
so you don't know why. Okay, yeah. Let's just say you were busy. You would just show up when you wanted to show up. Buddy Rogers eventually comes on.
Yeah. You have a wrestling question?
Yeah, but you didn't,
Exactly.
were you there? Were you going every week at the?
No, not
Jobber
not
Hour?
at the first.
No, I didn't remember that either.
No,
No,
it's kind of
he-
like the radio. I
no.
came in after it would already established.
Yeah, I think what happened was Cue Ball kind of started focusing more on the radio, and then Brace came on, and
Well, he
then
tends-
it was kind of like us
He tends to
three.
come to the party late because it was already established. You hear that? Then he shows up.
I did.
Hey,
I was
honest.
already established. He shows up. What's up with that?
But those other guys didn't want me on. I mean, so as soon as Mad Dog got on,
So
here comes Buddy Rogers.
right, exactly. So anyway, same thing with the Pile Driver show. Really, nothing had been established as far as live call-in shows on Lake Orion television at that point. But I think that we blew away the expectations. The phones were ringing off the hook. The call screeners were sweating at the end of the hour because they were seriously. I mean, the same thing with the Pile Driver too. I mean, certain
They were on
times with
edge the
Pile
whole
Driver.
time, man.
With Double J, the
Triple.
producer,
Triple
Triple
J.
J.
oh,
Yeah.
at any
Jeff
moment,
Jarrett.
they're ready to turn off hit the off button at any moment.
You know, for the calls though, that's we're talking about radio and getting a call and show on the radio. You can probably picture that and say, yeah, well, that's kind of supposed to happen. It's radio, right? But we were doing 20 calls
They were
an
lined up.
hour.
It was
We weren't just taking a couple calls, like they would an hour now on radio. We had a 1 hour show and we were just banging through calls and getting the information that the wrestling fans wanted to hear. And then coming to the studio, I think, Tim, you were kind of just saying it was kind of like I don't know if it was unprecedented here, but definitely having a live call-in show on, the local public access. You didn't see that very
with
often.
no delay
No.
either.
Yeah.
Right, no
Why?
delay. Well, that's another thing. Surprisingly, and along with like Brace was saying, it wasn't as bad as what everybody anticipated. There was a couple goofballs that would call in the beginning, but we kind of weeded them out.
Yeah, we heard the
really
same
quick.
voice every week. Like, okay, get rid of him. Just hang up on him because it's going to be a stupid comment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we did have caller ID and we would threaten to call them back. And I think a couple times we did call them back, but let's,
We threatened a bunch of 6-year-olds. Unbelievable.
but okay. So there was a lot of classic moments that on the Jobber Hour, but let's jump ahead to the apex, of the show. I mean, this had to be the highlight
It was.
of the whole run of the Jobber Hour, and that was the shoot fight between Rock Action
Yeah, it was the
and
shoot
Cue
fight,
Ball
too.
with Frank Williams Jr. as the special guest referee, Buddy Rogers / Brace Beemer and Mad Dog Butch as the
Color commentators.
The commentators.
Behind the desk.
And a great job you did.
That was, I believe, that was not the first time we had a crowd there, but we did have a crowd there, and the very first thing you did was throw cue ball back into one of the patrons.
Well,
before we,
I think it was his girlfriend or something.
But before we
humiliated
before
him.
we go further, let's clarify in case anybody doesn't know. A shoot fight, the word shoot within wrestling vernacular means like real. So it was a real
stage, man, nothing
it was a real wrestling match within the guidelines of pro wrestling.
and the stipulation was that whoever lost would not be allowed on the jobber hour any longer. And now
Loser leaves town or something like that, wasn't it?
Loser leaves a jobber hour.
now I'm not saying anything out of school, saying that you were quite a bit older than cue ball at the time. But I mean, were you worried going in there that
Really?
I'm
really asking me that?
I'm just asking. Yeah, I'm just asking. Were you worried at all that
The fight was already lost before I walked in the room with him. The guy weighed 112 pounds. He's lighter than him. He weighed like 112 pounds. I mean, what's he going to do to me? I was 200 pounds at that time.
now?
A lot younger, too.
Now, I will say that that I was worried that the fans were not going to get their money's worth. I thought that he was gonna, could possibly catch you with something, or you were just gonna
Not possible,
or
bro.
you were just gonna throw him down and pin him.
I second
But
that.
one of the greatest things. It was one of the greatest heel performances I've ever seen.
Oh, man.
Because Frank Williams Jr. was calling you out. You might have laid like a closed fist.
It's like just like
and
the
then
cheat
he would-
days. Never touched
when
the
he
guy.
would call you out on it. But yeah, that was quite enjoyable, and I think you strung that out for about what 15
Yeah.
minutes, 20 minutes.
I
maybe?
could have pinned him in 3 seconds if I wanted to. But that's no
It's
fun.
quality entertainment.
So eventually, that's what you did. You eventually
Finally.
pinned him.
Well, he was
And-
1 minute away from having a stroke, so I had to pin the guy, man, get it over with. I don't want the liability.
And then that is how. And then the next time I believe that you come on the show, you
Right.
are presented with the TCI World Television Championship.
Undefeated ever since.
And you've had that in your possession for 20 years now, almost.
Yep. My prized possession.
Now,
Duct tape and all. That's
I believe you did have at least one title defense against Skull Gantz.
Oh yeah. Yes.
No, I
You
don't
don't remember that?
No, I don't.
The results were in one of the wrestling magazines.
Yeah, they sure were.
Did I win or lose?
It said Skull Gantz squashed you in
Yeah,
about
Skull
a
Gantz
minute.
was another 6'7" monster.
Right.
Somebody made sure they got in there.
Well, okay. Unfortunately, time flies when we're having fun. So we got just a few minutes left already. So
Can I go to my
Rack
goodie bag?
action?
Can I go to my goodie bag? I got a couple of old
make
items.
It, yep. Make it quick though.
What do you got? Less than a minute?
No, we got about 5 minutes left.
See your I want to see your reaction on this.
All right, you got to put it up to the camera so people can see. Here,
Here, do better.
I'll put it on this one. Can you see it?
Who's this guy? Eric Bischoff signed a. Look how young he looks there. That's 20 years ago, man.
Says
Lake Orion rules.
Eric Bischoff
And what about this one? This is hilarious.
says
The Nitro Girls.
Whatever
Two-
happened to them? They just
Yeah, they-
to
evaporated.
John, Tigra, and Che. And I remember Che, and there was like some creepy guy hitting on her, and it
What's
wasn't.
the-
I will say you got a bunch
But-
of. You did a
Here.
great job in lining up interviews and such for that radio show. You got some big names in there.
Yeah.
I was impressed.
You did, and you used to get us sent merchandise all the time, like this stuff. And
This is brand new.
Are
stuff.
those
Look
from
at this.
Cue Ball? Cue Ball got a bunch of WCW
I don't
shirts.
care what. No, they're mine. Nobody touches it.
he did too. Oh, remember when me, you, and Prozac got those ECW shirts?
Yeah, yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Look, this one's brand. This is a great American.
We got
Bash.
promotional
I think
swag.
I had one.
We were huge.
Oh, you know what? I had one like this. I think you gave me one of these. Back then.
Come on, is that worth anything?
Excellent.
I don't know.
Probably. I mean, there's probably
This is my favorite stained yellow one.
There's probably
This might smell.
collectors out there.
This probably smells. My favorite
Oh, the
wrestler is Sandman.
This one is awesome. I see.
Oh, is he your favorite?
Oh, I love that guy.
Oh, you got.
He's such a
that's
fool.
Right.
Drinking beer and smoking cigarettes,
I forgot.
walking to the
Yeah,
ring.
you got.
Shoulder back where it says
Yeah, you got.
blood, sweat, and
ECW.
beers. That's like perfect.
Yeah, that's awesome. You got ECW to send us stuff too, but unfortunately, that was not my. Size,
I remember
but-
I got a little DDP flag, and there's so many things that I mean, they were giving us a little bit of attention,
Yeah.
WWF or whatever WWs are in there.
Yeah, you did.
Or-
You
Yeah, I
did
agree.
make some connections. That's
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
No, that was awesome. Okay, we got a few minutes left. Rock Action, thank you for being on here.
Let's not wait.
You have to
another
come
20
back
years.
again sometime so we can do the second part of your career, at least involved with us. Any parting words?
Well, it's been a long friendship, both of us, all of us. Appreciate your friendship.
heck yeah.
I mean,
Me too.
it was, how many times do you meet a couple of friends and then all of a sudden they're not, they're gone in a year or two. We've been going for 20 years,
yeah.
texting each other, ripping
Right.
on each other. I think it's totally cool.
We have some brutal text, especially between John and I. I think
Oh, they're
Mad
bad.
Dog just kind of enjoys it.
Yeah,
he's-
I do.
Well, let's do another 20 years. I'll be probably 150, but
You got it, man. Well, I'll be 149.
Brace Beemer, any parting words?
No, well, yeah, actually, this was really fun. I hope people stick around long enough because we're kind of talking about material maybe a lot of people haven't heard about, but I'm sure there are some people out there in Lake Orion that have seen our shenanigans throughout the years.
Yeah. Rock Action, thank you for being here. Brace
You're welcome.
Beemer, thank you for being here. This will
Thank you,
not
Mad
be
Dog.
the
Good
last
job.
time that we'll have you on here. Eventually, I want to get into a lot of stuff, so we'll continue to have guests in the future. For the fans, keep checking the Butch Blood Facebook page, and hopefully we will see everyone next week. Take care, everyone.
Yeah.
see you later.